Hello, everyone. Welcome to another masterclass hosted by the IAPC&M. I'm your host, Elena Nedeva, APC, and I'm delighted to be here with you. Today, 9th of June, in celebration of World Accreditation Day, we are hosting 4 complimentary masterclasses themed around how to be a better coach. We kicked off the day with Lisa McMurtry's masterclass on exploring how the nervous system states impact motivation, mindset, and achievement, and how to coach for deeper, lasting transformation. The second masterclass was by Aileen Makota Davis, who explored negative self-talk and gifted us with practical tools to quiet the noise, reframe negativity, and strengthen your inner coach. A couple of housekeeping rules. As a reminder, this masterclass is recorded, and to ensure quality of the recordings, please mute your microphones, but keep your videos on if you like. We love to interact. As I said, this is going to be an interactive session, so please feel free to unmute yourselves when you would like to ask a question, or simply put it in the chat. I will read it out loud for everyone. You're also encouraged to fill in your CPD logs with takeaways and ideas. And in case you don't have a template, I will insert a link to a copy of the IAPC&Ms, which you're very welcome to use. So please grab your notepads, sit back, listen, and enjoy. Up now speaking is Sue Hedley, APC with the IAPC&M, who will deliver a session on midlife careers. Stuck to unstoppable. This is designed for new coaches navigating midlife and anyone supporting midlife women in career transitions. Here's a bit of info about Sue. She worked in the corporate IT world for over 20 years and absolutely loved it. Then for over 18 months, Sue was struggling to deal with the stress, and the menopause wasn't helping. The longer this went on, the less confident she felt. Sue realized it was her time to change something. Stress was the gift, the trigger, and it was there to help her turn her life around. Life coaching helped her to rebuild confidence and figure out what to do next. This motivated Sue to retrain to help other women in the same situation. So she started her coaching business in her 50s, and now she has never been happier. It was hard, but absolutely worth it. These days, Sue loves helping her lovely clients learn that midlife and menopause is not the end. In fact, it's just the beginning of a new phase of life that gets better and better. I'll share with you the funniest coaching moment for Sue, which I'm sure will get you laughing. So Sue had a client who she was coaching on Zoom, and he refused to get up from her chair to get something across the room as a follow-up to their conversation. And then when challenged why the client didn't want to get up, the client admitted that it was because she didn't have any trousers on. So this funny moment broke through a real procrastination block and taught you the power of humor in coaching. This is such a funny story. Thank you, Sue, for sharing. Without further ado, over to you, Sue. It's an absolute pleasure to host you today.
Thank you very much, Elena, and thank you for doing all the hard work introducing me, so I don't have to do any of that bit. It's great to be here with you, and I just want to shout out to the IAPC&M. The reason that we all do what we do is because we want to help people. We want them to feel better. And I particularly love the openness of the IAPC&M, the way that knowledge is shared. Everybody will share as much as they can with each other. Nobody protects their knowledge or anything like that. So I'm here with you today, very much in that spirit, hoping I can help anybody who's maybe just getting started on their coaching careers, anybody who's actually in that midlife phase and is thinking, goodness me, this is tough. I hope that some of the things I share with you today will help you personally. And anybody who just wants to understand more about where their clients may be at, maybe you're not quite at that stage yourself, hopefully will paint a very vivid picture for you today, so you can help those clients a little, a little more fully, because you've got that understanding. So as Elaine has said, I coach women who are typically in their 40s and 50s. I do coach men sometimes, and I do coach other ages, but the main focus of my work is women in this stage of their life. And they're women who might stop and look ahead. And, if I say to them, how do you fancy the idea of another 15, 20, 25 years of your life as it is now? I can just imagine their faces kind of crumpling and them kind of going, no, 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 this is just awful. I do not want this to go on any longer. And it's that feeling that drives them to me. They may present with different symptoms and different reasons. It could be extreme stress. It could be changes at work, external situations that have thrown them into a spin, into a turmoil. But fundamentally, they don't quite know how to fix what's going on at the moment, how to build a career that they want to live, that they want to be part of for the next few years. And let me just sort of move on to the next slide. So what I'm going to share with you is, as much as I can in the time we've got, how I approach the coaching, the logical steps I follow and what I might do in each phase. I'm going to share with you the top 3 exercises that I've developed, adapted from other things I've seen, that I feel really, really help. And I'm happy to share these with you, and hopefully you'll use them and have the same impact with them that I do. I've got a few sort of hacks, as we call them, tips, if you like, just things that I know make a difference quickly. Women who are in the workplace. And when I say careers, I just want to qualify that, because I will work with anybody. I don't care whether they work in Tesco's and they've worked there for the last 10 years and they're unhappy. I don't care if they're sort of running a call center or if they're, kind of a 6-figure career woman. As far as I'm concerned, any woman who's been keeping the show on the road, holding down a job, is a career woman, and those are the people I will work with. And those people who are in that workplace, they need some quick things that they can do, and I'll come on to that in a little while. So I've got my top tips. And I'm also going to share with you something that I think really helps to future-proof. When we get to the end of a coaching journey, people are feeling better, they've got their direction. We want that to be sustainable. We want them to keep feeling good. It's not just for the period that we're working together. Anybody who has any questions, please feel free to come off mute, or as Elena said, pop things in the chat. Okay, so here we go. So when I'm working with women, I'm just following 3 basic stages, and I'll explain why these stages are important. It starts with awareness. Okay, awareness for me, I need to understand as quickly as possible what's going on for these lovely ladies, why they're feeling the way that they feel, why they can't see how to get out of, the situation that they're in. They can't see a way to feel better. And let's make no mistake that phase is so important, because if I can gauge the right tools, and if I can help them have an awareness that it's temporary, it will change, it can change, then we can move on to the next stage, which is where we're exploring, the exploration stage. What is it they're doing at work? What do they sit at their desk? What sort of takes up their time? What do they like doing? What do they not like doing? What's important to them? For some people, flexibility is important. For some people, autonomy is important. For some people, having control over when they do things, all those kind of things. And also people exploring themselves. We've all got different drivers, different things we need to be happy, values, limiting self-beliefs, all those things. So we're exploring the whole kit and caboodle, everything. And then once we've got a clear picture, a clear idea, I should say, we can then start to fit it all together a bit. We've got all the different bits of the puzzle in a way. So what we want to do is kind of slot them into the right place so we can think, okay, what does the next chapter, the second chapter, the next phase, what does that look like? You know, what does the client need in order to be happy, in order to flourish and look forward to the next few years? And, you know, as Elena mentioned, my journey was one where I went from doing the job I did for nearly 20 years, loving it, being confident, doing a good job, to, you know, within sort of the space of 6 to 8 months, literally sitting at my desk crying, having no confidence. It was just kind of leaking like kind of a leaky tap down the plug hole. And I just got to the point when I didn't think I had any skills. I didn't think I was any good at anything. And I was so stuck. And that's why I do what I do, because I don't want anybody to sit there feeling like I felt. So we need to move on from that. We need to put the pieces together so our clients can get back to feeling good about themselves, feeling confident, knowing they're good at what they do, embracing the change that age is bringing to them. Because yes, everything is changing, that's for sure. But it's different, it's not worse, and that's the key. There has to be an element of acceptance. There has to be a, you know, looking at the new picture and thinking, I'm excited about this. And I'll share one or two little client stories as I go through. So we're looking at awareness, exploration, and then acceleration, when we're ready to kind of take off and create that new picture. So the awareness is where we're understanding what's going on, the here and now. And for everybody here, it's worth just likening this. Everybody here has been through puberty. We can remember what that felt like. You know, it's almost feeling like we're at war with ourselves. At that point, you're in your teenage years. There's a lot of support out there for you. You know, society understands how difficult this phase is. The menopause, perimenopause is just as traumatic as puberty. And I'm pleased to say that the attitudes are changing slightly. There's more enlightenment, but we're a long way off every single woman out there in the world. And I will say men as well, because let's face it, men go through different stages in their life too. Really, for everybody having an understanding and the support that they need. So you're just expected to power through, basically. And that was exactly what I tried to do. I just decided I was tough enough to deal with it when I was feeling so bad. And I worked harder, I worked faster, I worked longer, I was more determined. And the more I did that, the closer I got to breaking point. So at this point, the women that I coach with my coaching program are not just in a position where they need to find a new career path. They are in fight, flight, or freeze mode. We're talking trauma here, okay? Severe trauma. And I am going to qualify what I'm saying by making it clear that I am not a counsellor. I am not a trained counsellor, and I work very hard not to stray into that territory. But equally, I've got the skills, the exercises, the techniques to help people, my clients, understand what's happening and move on to get some answers, to get their answers. Now, I'm going to use an analogy here. When a soldier is on the battlefield and they are fighting a battle, that is not the person, and that is definitely not the right time to stop and think, what's the strategy for the whole war? Where do we need to send more troops? What do we need to do? When you are on the front line, you are in a battle, you are in survival mode. And that's exactly what's happening with the clients when they come to me. Equally, I'm into horses as well. You know, if I'm on a bolting horse, if I'm on a horse that is running away with me, and it has happened not, I'm pleased to say, for a while, but it's happened in the past. You're not stopping and thinking as you're galloping along, hanging on for dear life. You're not thinking, gosh, what do I need? How do I need to alter my training program for the horse? Do I need to do more of this or less of this? Do they need a week off? You know, you're not thinking that. You're just hanging on for dear life. So that's what my clients are doing at that point. They're hanging on for dear life. We can't coach somebody in terms of moving forward, in terms of saying, okay, so what's important to you? You know, what does the future look like for you, and setting some goals and all that sort of thing. We can't do that straight away. You know, we need to turn down that trauma response. We need to get them back onto an even keel. So that's why I start with what's happening right now. Now, coaching, a coaching tool that we all know and we all love is the Wheel of Life, or whatever you like to call it. And I love that. I adapt it for the menopause situation, for the coaching situation that's going on with that client. You know, what's happening at work? You know, and we can pick up the different elements. And when you've had your initial chat with a client, you do have a sort of an inkling where to start and what to put on that wheel of life. So I can quickly start to get ideas, whether it's related to people they work with, whether it is related to the extreme sort of menopause situation, perimenopause, that they're in, a combination of things. Where are the highest levels of stress, discomfort, trauma playing out? Again, it's about finding out as much as we can. And you've all got, as coaches, you will all have tools and techniques and things that you might use to help people. And I'm just going to go on to the next slide. Let me just do a page down. Hang on, that didn't work. Let me do it that way. There we go. We have to bring in, obviously, the menopause at this point. You know, how are the clients looking after themselves? You know, when I was in that stage, again, like going back to that, I was not looking after myself. I was working harder and faster and longer. I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't relax at the weekends. We all know that uncomfortable feeling you get if you're tense and something uncomfortable is going on at work. You get to about 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and it kicks back in. You know, your peace and quiet, your relaxation, your calm has gone. So we need some techniques to help feel better, to remind people to live a healthy life in this particular phase. It's so important. Maybe I might do a little audit with them on what their sort of health and wellness routine is. Get them to answer some questions about what their week looks like. How well do they eat? You know, what sort of food are they eating? And it's not that I'm a nutrition expert, but I can get them to look at what they're writing, and they can spot where they need to make the changes. And if they spot where the changes need to be made, they're much more committed to making those changes. One of the big things that that crops up a lot at this point are boundaries, and also imposter syndrome. Boundaries, you know, memorable time, I had a client come to me and she said, by 9 o'clock in the morning, I have made 3 packed lunches. I've walked the dog. I've done 2 loads of washing. I've got the meal prepped for the evening when I finish work. And I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore, you know, and I'm doing everything to support my family around me. It's that feeling that something has to give. But when we're wrapped up with the menopause and with a busy career, everything that we've enjoyed and loved about life suddenly doesn't feel the same. There's an awful lot of guilt and an awful lot of difficulty saying no more. We've followed a pattern over the last 10, 20 years with our family, with our friends, with our career. How do we then suddenly turn around and say, I'm sorry, but I am leaving on time tonight? You know, it makes a difference. I feel better when I leave at 5:30. I'm going to do that from now on. How do you change that? It's so hard when your confidence is low. So there's a lot of work to do around boundaries. Imposter syndrome. We're not 20, we're not 30 anymore. You know, the things that we could do easily don't come so easily. We can't remember stuff as when we get into the menopause stage. You know, when I did the IT work, I could remember everything. I was dealing with 4 or 5 countries around the world, hundreds of users. I could remember all the issues that were found, what stage they were at. Could even remember the defect numbers. We logged them in a system and everything had an individual number. Boy, when I got to my late 40s, I certainly couldn't do that anymore. We're not the same person. So how do we deal with that? Again, there's all sorts of tools and techniques that we can do with that. There are simple things that can help the client, just simple time management exercises. There are, you know, how do they handle meetings? How do they work with their teams and their peers? Are there difficult characters that they're working with that are at the moment are really triggering them? You know, an example for me, when I was in that sort of tough time, I used to go into a meeting regularly, about once a week or so. And I realized that over and above all the other meetings, it was this meeting that used to send me into a spin. My confidence used to just hit the ground before this meeting. And when I stopped and really looked at it and asked myself why, I realized it was because there was somebody in that meeting who was extremely passive aggressive. And I'd been in such a spin, I hadn't been able to pick up on it. So by doing those exercises that pin down where the problems are occurring, it really helps you to know which of your skill sets, which simple exercises, which tools you can share with your client to help them deal with those immediate situations. And I'm going to pause in case there's any questions in a moment, so just bear with me. You know, one of the things that I will say is whenever I ask a client in this early stage, what small things can you do that will help, that will make a difference right now? They always have an answer. They might need to think about it for a few moments, but they always have an answer. Well, actually, if I left on time on a Tuesday, I can get to my yoga class. I really miss that. I could make sure I just took a break for 10 minutes and got outside at lunchtime. You know, I can get the kids to cook dinner one night a week so I can come home and relax. I can join, they've got a, you know, a training or a mentoring program at work. I could join that. They've always got ideas. They just need some space to have the time to calm down and think about it. Now, one of the skill sets that I have is NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And in a minute, I'm going to go on to an exercise that I've adapted from an NLP technique, which is so powerful. This is one of my top 3 exercises that I often regularly share with new clients, and I'll explain more about that in a moment, but I am going to stop talking for a second in case there's any questions or anybody wants to comment or add anything.
So I will read Jo's comments. She's sharing that what you have described resonates so much with her.
Oh, thank you, Jo. Bless you. Yes, it's a tough time, isn't it? That's for sure. So let me go on, because let me talk about this exercise that I do. And as I say, this is a small part of a full-on NLP exercise. And I shared this technique. A lady came to me, we had an initial chat, and she was, bless her, she was in quite a lot of sort of discomfort in her life at that point. She'd been sort of ill, she'd been at home for weeks. She'd got to the point where she didn't even want to go out the door anymore. She couldn't get in the car and drive herself. She could only go out with her husband, but she couldn't go out on her own. I shared this exercise with her, and this is the honest truth. Within a week, when I phoned her up again, she had driven her son to school twice. She'd been to the gym once, and she was sitting in the Tesco's car park when I called, about to go in and do her shopping. It is that powerful. I always use this one when I go to the dentist because I really don't like dentists, right? So basically, what this is all about, I call it a quick release. And we all have, it might be stress, it might be tension, it might be that sort of imposter syndrome, lack of confidence. Now, if I say to a client, well, just sit quietly, take some breaths and stop feeling tense, well, it's not very easy to do that, is it? Let's face it, if it was, we'd probably, as coaches, would probably be out of a job a lot of the time. What we do with this is we turn that negative, uncomfortable, unhelpful emotion and feeling into a thing, into an object. So I will talk through this as if I was doing it with you. If you want to close your eyes, if it's safe for you to do so, then we can do this together, but I'll do it quite quickly because of the time. But basically, I'd say to the client, just sit quietly, just close your eyes and take a couple of breaths. Just close your eyes to shut everything else out so you can concentrate. And because they've come to me with, a time in their life at this point, they're not feeling good, I can say, okay, now, just feel whatever's going on for you at the moment, and just notice where in your body you feel this feeling the strongest. There's no right or wrong answer. It doesn't matter whether it's your hand, your shoulder, your head, anywhere, it doesn't matter. Where is the feeling the strongest? And they will give me an answer. Then the next step is to say, okay, give that feeling a color. What color is it for you? I might say, it's in my tummy and it's purple. Okay. And what shape is it? Give that feeling a shape. So they'll say, oh, it's kind of like a spiky ball. Okay, doesn't sound very nice. Is it heavy? Or is it very light? Sometimes they're light and fizzy. No, it's quite heavy. Okay, so you've got this purple spiky blob, and it's kind of heavy. Does it have a temperature? Is it hot or cold? Might do, might not. And sometimes they're moving. So you're turning a feeling into an object. So then I can work through this with the client. I can say, okay, now let's change the color. What color for you means calm and confident? I might say, well, green. Okay, let's change it. And you'll keep your eyes closed and just reimagine it. It's green now. Take a couple of breaths and feel how much better that feels. Now let's just change the shape. We don't want a spiky blob. Let's turn it into maybe just a little soft ball. I sometimes use a cotton wool ball as an object because they have such a nice feeling about them. Sometimes I might say, just turn it into a little flower petal, a little piece of paper. Doesn't matter. Just turn it into something nice. Make it light. And just keep breathing and feel the space. Feel how much better that feels. And we work on this until the client said, yeah, they've done that. It does feel better. Still there. We want to get rid of it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to draw it out. So I say to the client, if you want to, like, say it's in your chest, if you want to draw your hand away from your chest and imagine you're removing it from your body, then do that. Just keep doing it. Doesn't matter if it takes 10 minutes until it's all gone, till there's nothing connecting it to you anymore. And just see it sitting on your hand and watch it just float away on the breeze. It's gone. It's not there anymore. And the words that nearly every single client uses when I've done this exercise is, first of all, wow. And then I feel calmer. I feel lighter. Those are the words that get repeated so often, calmer and lighter. It really works. And the trick is to get people to practice it. So when they've done it with you, it takes, a few minutes. They can do it in 30 seconds. They can go and sit on the loo at work if they need to, if they're going into a meeting anytime and they're tense about it. Just get rid of the anxiety, get rid of the tension, get rid of the imposter syndrome, whatever that negative feeling is. So again, I'm going to stop in case anybody's got any questions. Thanks for the heart. Thank you. Good. So, okay. So that's one of my top exercises. So then we move on to the next phase when we are exploring. We've brought down the trauma response. Now, a client may come to me and they might not be so deep down on the trauma scale. They might be aware that they're stressed and they're tense and something needs to change. So they might not need the whole of the what's happening here and now. They're ready to say, look, I need to get a new job. I need to be out of this place. The culture is not suiting me. Management have changed. Whatever the reason is, I need to look forward. I need to know what I'm going to do next. Will you help me? So I don't necessarily go through every single phase in such a detail. I'm guided by the client. If a client comes to me and we go through the whole thing, we could be talking sort of a 10 to 12 week supported journey. And although I start with the client and we're looking at how we can help them to feel better quickly, because who wants to keep them in, who wants them to stay in that uncomfortable, horrible place for very long? We also want them to start getting some answers. So I will give them some exercises. There's some exercises, some light exercises, nothing too taxing, because I'd rather that they implemented the things they've agreed they're going to do that will help them to feel better. But they want to start exploring. But at this phase, we really do go into exploration mode. I like to work with people and assess, really give them a clear picture how their confidence has changed from possibly 10 years ago and 5 years ago versus today. That often tells us something. It may be actually that they've always felt lack of confidence in certain areas, for example, but now it's playing out a little bit more because it's more relevant. Or maybe they find actually they did used to be confident. I had a client just last week said to me, wow, I could do these things. I was confident. Yes. And that changed her whole thought about the stage that she was at. So let's look at what's actually happening. We have to look at how they keep themselves stuck. And of course, I'm talking about limiting self-beliefs. We all know about that, don't we? We've all got them, and we all work on different ones at different times, and they play out at different points. When I went through my sort of changing period, what played out for me was the fact that I'd had a really traumatic childhood and I had got through it. I'd created a good life, but certain things came back at that point that hadn't really troubled me before. So things can crop up. We have to recognize them, and we have to start putting them to bed. We have to start dealing with them. Values is another big one. And all these are standard coaching tools. And I'm not going to go into the details of those because you will all know as part of your training and your experience how to do that. But when I do a values exercise with a client, I don't just give them an exercise and take it away, let them do it at home. I talk them through it. We really go deep. And they will come up with their values, and I will go away and analyze the results so they get them in priority order as well. And again, the number of times a client has just, when I've sent that to them, they come to the next session and they go, I understand now. I understand why I'm feeling the way I feel, why I'm not happy at work. It makes perfect sense now. It's like the penny, that, as we say in the UK, the penny drops. Values are really important. And as we're looking at the next stage, we want to make sure there's an alignment with our values, of course. What we need to be thinking here is partly the client. So what have they got that's playing out versus what about the workplace? And there's all sorts of exercises, things that I will do to dig deeper with the client. I've got, I won't say screeds, but I've got a lot of exercises where, for example, I get the client to explore the things that they're doing in their job every day and scaling, the satisfaction rating of doing those things. I had one client memorably say to me, I'd rather sandpaper my eyeballs than have to run another audit report again. You know, it's like, so, but, you know, seriously, just getting them to explore what are they doing and then thinking what's important to them. You know, for some people, the one thing I love about my job is I've got the flexibility. I decide what I do and when I do it. And we all know that in the menopause, we have different times of the day when we feel better. So being able, for example, to do just that and think, well, I can pick the time where I've got lots of energy and get the difficult tasks done. I don't have to do certain things at certain times. Some other people might not want to travel too much. There's all sorts of things. So let's explore what's important in terms of the job itself. What are the transferable skills? And what's happening as I'm going through these exercises with the client is that they're getting reacquainted with what it is they've got to offer. It's boosting their confidence because they're thinking, wow, yes, I did do that. You know, I did do that. I had that success. I organized that thing. I did the thing and I made it work. They're getting that boost of confidence. It's coming back. They're getting reacquainted with it. Yeah. And I've got a couple of exercises that I've come up with for this stage because, you know, as Elena said, when I had that funny experience in a coaching session, it really taught me that kind of humor, but also creativity is so important. Just trying to do things in a different way. One of the things about using NLP and sort of being neuro-linguistic programming is it's all about the subconscious. You know, how does the subconscious give us thoughts that keep us stuck or help us to break free? So by having creative exercises, it's a really good way. It's a really good way to kind of break out of the box a little bit and or think outside the box, I guess is the phrase. So I'm going to share now a couple of exercises, but again, I'm just going to pause and welcome to, I think, Gabriella, who just joined us. It's good to have you on board. If anybody wants to ask anything or share anything, I realize I'm doing all the talking at the moment and I'm happy to talk because I love what I do, but equally, if anybody wants to get a word in, now's your chance. Okay, all right. So let me go on. So this is an exercise I do. Sorry, I've just moved let me just move my window back where it was before if I can. There we go. So I call this the Dragon's Den pitch. And anybody who's on the call outside of the UK, you might not know what the Dragon's Den program is on the TV. So I'm just going to give you the 3-second explanation. It's a program where people who have a business idea, they go and stand in front of the panel and they pitch their idea. And they sometimes, if they're successful, some or all of the Dragon's Den panel will fund their business for them. So it's a way of funding your business. You go and you pitch, you sell your business idea, and if you do a good enough job, you might get some funding to help your business. So I've kind of turned it around very slightly, and I have a fun time. I get the client to basically go away and imagine. We might take a 10 to 15 minute break in a coaching session. Go away, imagine that you had to reapply for your job, but you had to apply for your job against a 22-year-old person. Okay. And of course, when I first say this, everybody's face, most people kind of go, what? And they look fairly horrified because it's kind of in the line of role play and everybody's comfortable with that. So I said, look, I'm going to play the part of the 22-year-old and you're going to be you. Go away, come up with about 5 or 6 bullet points that really capture what you have to offer as the person you are here and now. You know, your experience. And I just give them a few words to get the ball rolling. I said, go away and come back and sell yourself to me. So they go have a cup of tea and then we sort of gather again, reconvene. And I say, would you like me to go first, or do you want to go first? And they always say, I want you to go first. So I always go first. I'm this young, slightly kind of cocky person, you know, who thinks they know everything. And because they're young and they know that they're up against, you know, a woman in her 40s or 50s, they think it's a done deal. You know, they've just come out of uni, they've got all the qualifications that they might need. So I'm kind of going through the fact that I've got more energy, I'm younger, I can work longer hours and all these things. So I do my pitch and then they do their pitch. And of course, we do have fun with this eventually, and it's really enlightening. It's a great way to get people to start to embrace the fact that it's different. It's not worse. It's better. You know, we have to get used to exercising our change muscles. They don't always get a lot of exercise. We can go through a year or two and nothing really changes, not to any great extent. So this is a great way to do that. So that's one of the exercises I love to do. And I've got another one that will come up shortly. Sometimes I do this other one I'll show you earlier on. Sometimes I use it a little bit later. But now we move on to the third stage. So we've taken a client who was basically in fight, flight, or freeze mode, who couldn't really think clearly, who wasn't feeling good at all in so many areas, because we can't just keep work in a little box in the corner. If you're spending 8 hours a day at work, or 9 or 10 hours a day at work, and you're not feeling good, it comes home with you. It affects everything, of course. So we've got this person who is not living a good life at the moment. We've helped them to calm down. We're continually helping them to make small changes, and those small changes keep adding up. They've done a lot of work, a lot of exploration about what it is that's actually not right for them in their life, in their working life. Sometimes we end up exploring home life as well. Yeah. So they're starting to get a picture. They will be going away and doing things like working on their CV. I get them to draft a job shopping list. So we're starting to pull things together to help them figure out, okay, I've done a lot of analysis where I am now, but where do I go with all this information? And we all often know what we don't want, but we don't know quite what we do want. That's much more difficult to find. So at this stage, we're pulling it together and we're trying to sort of break free a little bit and look to the future. And you know, I've a couple of client stories. I had a lovely lady I was working with. She ran her own tutoring business. It was a franchise. Some tutoring she did face-to-face, some she did online. She'd been doing it for a long time. She was trying to work out, did she want to stop doing it? There were so many things about it that she'd been doing it for a long time, and there were so many things that she wasn't enjoying anymore. She was feeling really stuck. So when we got to this stage, I did an exercise which I'm going to share with you shortly. I did an exercise with it. Now, I will say that this client had a wonderful way of expressing herself. And of course, it's serious business coaching. You can't always be laughing just because the client uses wonderful language and expresses everything in such an amazing way. But she inside just had me in stitches all the time, often when we were together. What came out for her was that she wanted to write. She wanted to write comedy and she wanted to act. And it wasn't necessarily at that point to change careers and do that, but that was what she needed in her life. So she wanted to reduce her sort of tutoring work, start taking some acting classes, start writing some comedy. I mean, that was amazing. You know, I've had other clients who have decided that they want to go and study. They want to do a psychology degree or whatever it might be. You just never know what might come out. So I love this phase. It's a real voyage of discovery. Sorry, I'm just getting something out of the way on my screen here. So we're looking, and at this stage, we might start updating the CV. updating the LinkedIn profile, looking at jobs online. I love just go. I still do it now, even though I'm looking for a job. Go look at the jobs that come up when you put in some search criteria. Look at what's there. Notice the jobs that come up. Notice how you feel inside when you look at those jobs. And if you're seriously considering, moving in a sideways move or looking for a promotional role, anything like that, you can look at the different criteria on that job advert. You don't have to apply at this point. You can just keep looking. Every single advert you look at will tell you something. So we're busy giving the client things to do. So they keep moving towards that moment when they go, yeah, I know where I'm going now. I know what's involved, and I'm well on the way towards that. So we're thinking in terms of, okay, if it's career based and they want to change something, is it within the same company where they work now? Are they happy where they work? But do they need a new challenge? I had one lady who was working in a call center. She was managing a call center team. She was good at what she did. She wanted to move into HR. So she started taking all sorts of sort of extra courses that the company put on, and also external courses. And she was waiting for a vacancy to come up. She didn't necessarily want to move to a different company. She was upskilling, ready to jump on an opportunity. But some people need to be in a different environment. The company's been bought out, they've got new management, new ethos, the culture isn't in line with what the client needs now. They don't feel seen, looked after, cared for, any of those things. Maybe they're not earning enough, so they need to go somewhere else. What size company do they want to go to? So there's all sorts of things that we're looking at here. Yeah. But what I'm going to do sort of quickly, because I've kind of really covered this while I was talking. I love this exercise. Again, it's another way for clients to figure out what's changed. Okay. So what I say to the client, they've got 3 boxes, and into each box they can put 3 things. One box is from 5 years ago. One box is today, and they put another 3 things in for today. And one box is, let's say, 3 or 4 years. I don't go too far into the future. And this is my example. If I put 3 things into a box that represented me 5-10 years ago, I might have put a padlock because I felt so stuck and so locked. I would put the number 2 because, and this is the honest truth, because I always believed I was a good second in command. I did not believe I could run my own business. I did not believe I could lead. Simple as that. And I would put something grey. I couldn't find a grey sweater, so I found a rock. I just put something grey because I wanted to blend in. I did not want to stand out. Yeah. What I put in the box today would be very different. And potentially what I put in the box, if I think 3 years ahead again, might be very different. It's a really good way for people to notice the positive things that have changed, and kind of maybe spot some patterns as well. So it's really insightful, this exercise. I love it. And I notice we've got a thing in the chat. Is that a question or something, Elena? Can you tell me?
Yes. So we have a question from Jo. She's inquiring, how do you choose which exercise to do?
Okay. An easy answer. That's a really good question, Jo. I mean, there are certain ones that I like to do, to be honest, the career exploration ones, looking at, the skills you're using, the transferable skills and all those sorts of things. They're all sort of ones I do regularly. The exercises I'm sharing with you now, you can bet your life 9.9 times out of 10, I will use these at some point in the coaching journey. But there are all sorts of other ones as well. I could say the answer to that is instinct. Okay. As a coach, what do? We listen to people, and we're listening to what they don't say as well as what they do say. We're listening to their responses. I'm watching their face. I'm looking at their skin color changing. I'm looking at their mouth getting tense when I say something back to them, when I regurgitate, rephrase what they've said. And I don't believe it's instinct. I just believe our subconscious processes so much information that the client is giving us one way and another. And it's on the basis of that that I decide what is the right exercise to do. And of course, I do also consider sometimes in between sessions that when I'm reviewing and reflecting on the session, you know, I may become aware after the event that there was a real sense of being stuck in a certain area, maybe not really being able to believe in the skill set that they've got, or maybe we're not moving on and there's imposter syndrome at play. So it's partly what's happening in the session, instinct, me processing stuff, and then me going back to the stage we are, where I've reflected and felt that there's a bit of a block or something stuck, we need more information. I hope that answers your question well enough, Joe. It sometimes feels more like an art than a science, is the honest truth. So I like the 3-box exercise. This is another one, and I'm aware of the time, so I'm going to do this really quickly. This is a great way to get clients, and it is adapted from an NLP neurological levels exercise. Just call it a visualization exercise. I basically take a client and I say to them, sit comfortably, close your eyes, just take a couple of breaths just to shut out what's going on in the room so they can concentrate. I've already checked with the client, this is important, that they don't mind being outside, that they go for walks, they're happy outside in the countryside, that they don't have things like, for example, allergies, they're not allergic to bees or that kind of thing. So I say, and do you have a place that you like to walk or be outside? It might be the garden or the park or the countryside or the beach, whatever. So I established the fact that we can do this exercise. I say, okay, you're walking along somewhere you like to go, and you spot a building that you hadn't noticed before. And you look at this, it's a red brick building in the distance, and you walk towards it. You get to that building, big wooden door, big brass knob. You put your hand on the brass knob and you can feel it's warm because the sun's shining. So I'm appealing to all their different senses, what they can see, what they can feel. Maybe they can hear the birds singing. They turn the knob and they go into the building. And it's a 3-story building, and it's got just one room on each floor. And I take them through each of the different rooms. The ground floor represents their current life. And I get them to go into that room and imagine they can see a screen. On that screen is what's happening in their life at the moment. They can ask themselves, what's my real purpose? And am I living? Am I fulfilling my potential? There's all sorts of questions that I might raise as I'm taking them through this, depending on what their situation is. I don't spend too long here. It's just a reminder that they're here. This is what's happening at the moment. Get them to leave the room, still with their eyes shut, go up the steps to the next floor, to the first floor. This is looking 3 or 4 years ahead. I want you to imagine that you're feeling confident, calm, believe in yourself, whatever the right words are to connect to the client. I want you to believe that that's happened. I want you to bring it to life in this room. And I start to ask them, where are you? Are you in an office? Some people might say, well, actually, no, I'm working in a shed at the bottom of my garden. Okay, is anybody there with you? If they're sitting at a desk, what can you see? Have you got a notice board? Are you working on a computer? Just get up and walk to the kitchen and make a cup of tea. Are other people there with you? Are they people that you're leading, or are they people that you're working with? Are they peers? So I really get them to examine what they can see. And as we go up the levels, up the floors, the rooms get lighter, they get more comfortable, and they come alive. So by the time we've finished here, they've really got some ideas. Then we go to the top floor, and this is where you get in touch with your higher purpose. And I don't mind what anybody's higher purpose is, whether it's family, love, God, money, it really doesn't matter. But whatever you feel ultimately represents higher purpose for you. You go in this room, it's light, The colors are amazing. You feel the power coming up through the floor into your feet. All those things, you're really bringing it alive. And then we say, what do you see? What do you know? It's not so much about what are you doing, but what do you know? Yeah. So, yeah, I get some amazing results with this exercise too. People, the number of times people say, I thought that the answer was X or Y, but actually it's A or B. It really does. It really does get to places that no other exercise does. So I'm aware of the time, and I'm going to wrap up really quickly. I've just got a few things here, and I'm just going to let you read these, but I might adapt these sort of top. I always try and give my clients, some top tips, and from these they will possibly think about some things they can do and change. Thinking about when your energy level's high, do the difficult things then. Set boundaries. Maybe once or twice a week you leave on time, you take your lunch break, and gradually we build on that. Think about where you're sitting. Can you open the window? Those kind of things, Are you eating and drinking? Do you have some water on your desk? Just some top tips. They're all common sense. You can do any Google search you like, and you will come across these, but people need to see it. They need to read it, and they need to realize it's important. Yeah. And what I finish off with, and I'm just going to do the quick one because I am aware of the time, Elena, is I like people to, as they get towards the end of the coaching journey, want to future-proof them. I want them to think, and I call it a recipe for success. What's their recipe for success? I get them to think about a day, a time during a day when they felt really good. They knew that they could do anything. If they had to have a difficult conversation, deal with a difficult customer, do a difficult job, that's the day they do it. They just, if you think of superheroes, they've got their underpants on the outside, they knew that was the day. And then we think about, okay, well, why did I feel like that? What made me feel so good that day? Was it because I got a good night's sleep, an early night? Was it because I had a chat with a lovely friend? Was it because I did 10 minutes yoga and meditation before I went to work? So let's think about what works, and let's write that down and remember it so we can do it again. We can have a good day. And we can't flatline. We can't flatline on the 10 out of 10, but we can be proactively reaching for that. And then sometimes think about, well, if I need something extra on some days, what can I do? Who can I reach out to and say, do you fancy a coffee? Shall we meet in the canteen at lunchtime? That kind of thing. Or is there a little park I can take a break and just walk to that park because it's so nice? So it's about living actively, isn't it? About being proactive. So a little bit of a rush at the end. What I've got for you all is I've got a midlife coaching power pack. It's a free gift. I haven't got round to getting it on a downloadable link, and I promise this isn't just a way for me to get your email addresses. Okay, it's a 14-page document. It's got all these. In fact, I've probably got it up on the screen here somewhere. I can't find it at the moment. Never mind. It's a 14-page document, and it's got all the exercises, lots of text, all the stuff I've been talking about. You're very welcome to it. Just email me. If anybody wants to chat about coaching, I'm not going to try and hard sell you on anything, but if you want to just talk a little bit further, I love to connect with people. You can scan the QR code here, especially if I don't know if you can see my thing in the way there, and you can drop me an email. So I'm more than happy to help anybody, chat with them. Take the power pack, and I hope it helps you with your coaching journey yourselves. So thank you, everybody, for joining me, and whoever might be watching it on catch up as well. Great to have you here, and I'm going to hand back to you. Sorry, I did overrun a little bit. Apologies, Elena.
No problem at all. We were just on time, actually, with 2 minutes left to go. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to read Jo's most recent comment. She says, love the one about having 1 or 2 phrases to buy time. Brilliant. That's my takeaway from this. Thank you. And she also sends you a kiss.
Oh, thank you, Jo. Lovely. Bless you.
I wanted to ask if any of the other participants had any takeaways or any last-minute questions that they wanted to ask. From my end, I wanted to thank you for this really eye-opening presentation, full of, I'll call them magic tricks, because some of them are so simple but actually so impactful. So thank you very much. We have Gabriela saying in the chat, thank you very much, very helpful exercises.
Oh, welcome, Gabriella.
Yes, and once more, feel free to connect with Sue directly. This is her email address, sue@confidencefirstcoaching.com. Sue, I look forward to hosting you once more, at least once more going forward.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back. Yeah.
And you every success going forward. And thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you very much.
An absolute pleasure.
Thank you for the participants as well. And have a great rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care. Enjoy the last session when it comes up later.
Yes, that's a reminder. Thank you for the reminder, Sue. We have one last session later today as part of our initiative to celebrate World Accreditation Day. So that's in an hour's time. We've got Marcelo, who will be hosted by our lovely Dawn. So if you have time to tune in for that, we would love to see you. Thank you very much.